Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Mr. Shakespeare again with you on the 21st of March, 2023. I'm here with psychic medium and remote viewer Liz Cross. How are you doing today, Liz?
Fantastic, especially now my smoothie has arrived.
Oh, you get delivery on smoothies, do you?
I get deliveries when I do videos. Wow. I do. I get, special delivery. I get smoothies. I get teas, chai teas. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm so lucky.
You are, aren't you? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. This is a probe on a guy called Michael Hudson, who is an American economist. And he's a professor, as it says here, of economics at the University of Missouri, Kansas.
Missouri. And if you're from Missouri, you don't say Missouri. You say Missouri.
Oh, do you? Okay.
That's what I've been told. I'm probably. Right.
Well, I've only been there once anyway, so that was years ago. Okay, now this guy is an economist and he understands quite a lot about what's going on in the world. He has written many books about what's going on and all sorts of various things. So we need to have a little chat with him, please. So, Liz, can you get a connection with him, please?
I can.
And how is he doing today?
He's a late sleeper as well. He's just waking up.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess because we do a lot of these in the morning, your time morning.
Yeah, I've been up since 4 a.m.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. So.
That's how I roll.
It's crazy.
It's the only time I could get stuff done.
Yeah.
I don't have a choice. But I like it. I like that quiet time in the morning when dogs aren't barking and kids aren't shouting and, I like it. So this guy is a night owl.
Is he? Right. I didn't know that. Okay. What does he think of the recent bank failures in the US?
What do you think? It was bound to happen.
What does he think of the Biden administration's response to what happened?
Disaster.
In what way?
In what way? Well, it wasn't really much of a response. Now these are his own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions. These are not yours. These are not mine. They belong to Michael Hudson. So I don't want any nasty grams coming through. He says that, you know what I mean? Liz, you said that. No, Liz isn't interpreting. I am the medium, which means they translate through me. He doesn't like the response. He said it's a disaster and it's only going to ruin the economy. Now, I'm puzzled as to why he would say that.
Well, let's ask him. Why does he think this will ruin the economy?
Why do you think this will ruin the economy? Because the long-term effects are going to be horrendous.
Yeah, but
you can't keep bailing everybody out. That's what he's saying. You can't just bail out every time a business or a bank goes bad, because the knock-on effect of trying to recoup that money that you're using to bail out, the money has to come from somewhere. So he's saying you can't just keep doing this. Sometimes they just have to fail.
But the problem is, as he well knows, is the whole of the financial system runs on the confidence word, C word, confidence. And if these banks were allowed to fail, and I agree they should be allowed to fail, but the confidence would then send the financial system tumbling down. And whilst that's maybe what you need to do, no politician is ever going to vote for that, because politicians only care about getting voted in the next time. They are not going to sit there and ride that down. They're not. So what does he think about that? It's not really a question, it's more of a statement. So
okay, which part of that? What do you think?
Okay, well, all right, let's make it into a question. Did he expect, or would he expect the government then just to allow this to, should the government have allowed it to happen and all crash?
Yes, because
bear in mind they're a Democratic Party government, and these, two of these banks are in the Democratic stronghold of California. And we've already probed out to say one of the reasons why would be the massive tax loss and everything else to California. Why would they do that to their own people?
These banks are doomed to fail. He said this bank was doomed to fail along with many, many other banks, and you can never improve the financial system and the banking and the accountability if you're allowing these fly-by-night banks that are doomed to fail to exist. That makes sense.
Right, but bear in mind, there was no risk management obviously done at the bank, and I'm trying to think of what was it called now? Silicon Valley Bank. In fact, at the time, I don't think they had a risk manager as such. They had somebody who was very interested in making the bank have woke principles and things like that. And she was the risk manager, or one of them, not the top, one of the lower level ones, but I think they were concentrating more on that. They were buying on the long-term treasuries, 10-year treasuries. And of course, when the interest rate rose, these treasuries were losing value. They were actually losing money. They should have, once that happened last year, when the interest rate started to rise, most of the other banks, a lot of the banks started de-risking and getting rid of the long-term treasuries. This bank didn't. So does he expect more bank failures in the next month or two?
Do you expect more bank failures in the next month or two? No, because they won't be allowed to fail.
Right. So if they're not going to be allowed to fail, does that not then, even if it's a false sense, but does it not then install confidence back in the market?
Yes, but he believes that's only a short term putting a Band-Aid over the wound.
Right. How would he fix the situation today? If he could do anything, what would he do?
If you could fix the situation today, what would you do? He says let them fail. And then what? Then people lose money. But then the government and they put more accountability in place so that these banks popping up in the future won't fail. He says sometimes you need these big money people to lose some money because they're going to shout the loudest. They have the most clout. They have the most power. And, they need to start calling these banks out on their crooked behavior. I tell you, he is not a fan of the banks at all. He is very anti-banking.
Right.
He doesn't trust them.
Well, okay. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Well, the problem is that, as we said on another probe the other day, I'm sure, banks used to have two functions. One, which was basically a custodian of your money, deposit, that side of it, which was pretty much risk-free. And then the other side was the investment side. They all have to gamble and do everything now. That was it, the Glass-Steagall Act that was repealed that kept the bank, the two sections apart. So, basically the banks are like casinos now, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't keep your money in the bank, what does he suggest you do? Keep it in cash under the mattress? Keep it in gold bars under the floorboards. What does he suggest?
Is that where you keep yours?
No, I actually trust the banks a bit more. I know I shouldn't, but I do trust them a bit more. I don't trust them completely, but I think if we're not, we might not like the kick the can down the road principle, but if you have something else, another asset class that you can put spare cash into, then yes, I would do that. That would be a smart thing to do. As you know, I'm big on cryptos, but cryptos is another form of gambling. Of course it is. It's still risky, hugely volatile, as we know. I explained to somebody yesterday, there are two types of problems that people have with money, as far as I'm aware. So either you are in the category of you don't have much and all you spend, you spend your time trying to find out how to get more because you need more to live on or pay the bill or whatever it is, that type of thing, or
PayPal steal it. Yeah, go on.
Well, okay, and that's what some people do. Or you basically, have too much, so-called too much money, and then you're worried about the fear of loss. Seriously, rich people don't worry about making more money. They worry about trying to keep what they've got. Wealth preservation to the rich is more important than wealth creation. Yeah.
Isn't that a nice position to be in?
Well, yes.
I have so much money, I'm scared I'm going to lose it. I totally understand that concept. That's a very alien concept.
Right. Well, right. Unless if you've got millions or hundreds of millions or whatever, then you are seriously worried about not losing that. And I don't mean losing, if you've got 100 million, you lose, a few 100,000. They're not worried about that, but they wouldn't want to lose 98% of their wealth, would they?
No.
Right. So the fear of loss is actually a bigger emotion than the greed fear. The greed emotion.
That's interesting. So you know what? Let's probe that.
Okay.
Excuse me. Let's probe that because my smoothie is very cold. Let's probe that. Is the fear? Let's do the moon because the moon would know. The moon is what guides our emotions. Right. What sort of moon do we have at the moment? I should know this stuff, and I just don't. I don't have the time to research all this. It's a new moon today. A new moon.
Is it? Wow.
It is. So let's probe the moon. Which is a stronger fear? Greed or what is it? Which is stronger? Which is a stronger emotion?
The fear of loss. Yeah, sorry.
Fear of loss.
Or greed, or it's not the fear, or just, greed.
Greed or fear? Fear.
Right. Well, the fear of loss, yeah.
That's interesting to me because both of them are actually quite dark emotions, right? They are. I mean, greed can actually be somewhat positive because, that's what keeps you motivated. That's what makes you get up and go to work. That's what makes you try to get the bonuses or try, that's what makes you invest. That's what makes you, buy crypto, whatever, and watch your spending. I mean, that greed. So it can be somewhat good. And fear can be somewhat positive too. A lot of people that suffer anxiety, they have this huge fear of the unknown. And some of that is okay. We should have some fear of the unknown. But then it's taken to extremes where they fear everything that is the unknown. And then they go into this like OCD mode where they try to control everything. They plan everything and they miss out on a lot of opportunities because they're so consumed with fear. So both of these elements or both of these emotions do have some positive aspects, but I would say greed has more positive aspects than fear. But I've always said that dark emotions, the dark seems stronger, so much stronger than the light, right? So the darkness needs a host. the darkness, it moves faster than light. And I don't know why. That has to be another probe for another day. And it would be interesting to find that out. But so on that basis, and what the moon is saying, fear is a much stronger emotion than greed. So
Right.
with that in mind, I guess the stock markets respond more aggressively when there's more fear in the market.
Yeah, prices tend to come down harder and faster, and they tend to go up slower, and more, stair stepping. So, yeah, I mean that's true.
That is true. So let's ask him this question, because I failed to answer it. So what do you suggest, since you're so anti-bank? What do you suggest? Now, here you go. Physical gold.
Right. Wow. Tying in with our last video.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny? So
let's ask him this question. Did he ever read The Thoughts of Another on the old Kitco or 321 Gold website?
Did you ever read The Thoughts of Another on old Kitco website? Yes.
Whoa.
Isn't that funny?
Wow. Synchronicity there. Wow. Okay.
He reads a lot. This guy reads a lot.
Oh no, he's a smart guy. Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's constantly absorbing information.
Yeah, and he gets it as well. Now, SVB had a very large bond portfolio, which was not good. Why does he think that they did not get rid of that? Why does he think that, when the interest rates, I'm asking the question now, why, when the interest rates started rising last year and these were not a good thing to hold, why didn't they get rid of them, does he believe? Because a lot of banks did. Why didn't they?
Well, because they're greedy.
So the problem with banking, and this is why they don't have to mark to market their bonds. Does he agree with that they should, or is he okay with the fact that they don't have to? Or not just bonds, their assets. I mean,
should they have marketed their assets? Everybody should market their assets.
Mark to market.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think, because that's what I do. Now, I know it's weird, and I'm not. So if I have some cryptos, and they go down, I record the fact they've gone down. If they go up, I record the fact they've gone up. I do it, pretty much live. I mean, I have software that does it for me, but the point is, it's always done mark to market. Everything I do is mark to market. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin goes up, great. If Bitcoin goes down, not so good. But I mark to market it. Banks don't have to do that. So they can literally sit with bonds and worthless investments on their books, which, bear no relation to today's value. Why does he believe they're allowed to do that? Why doesn't the system? Is that because the system would then just collapse if everybody had to market their assets?
It could collapse, yes. But also it's very time consuming. It takes a lot of power, whether it's manpower, whether it's programming power, and to make those sorts of decisions.
Well, not really. I mean, if you hold 10-year, ask him this. If somebody holds 10-year treasuries, the price is stated 24/7. I mean, these banks, they've got software that could just pick on that. I mean, they could automate that. My God, if I can for my little pot.
Yeah, well, he says, yes, you can, but it needs the manpower to automate it as well.
Right. What does he think of the Fed that's been raising interest rates since August, September last year? What does he think of what they're doing?
Oh, he doesn't like it.
Why? Does he think we should have zero interest rates?
No, but he thinks that it should have remained low. And I think, when we're probing, you start to understand how somebody's personality actually works. I mean, look at him so far. He's anti-bank. He seems to be pretty much anti-government. Well, I say he seems to be anti-government. He thinks that there should be more government control over what these banks are doing. He also believes these banks should just fail. But then, as we're asking this last question, he's very much for the people. He's not so much for the big banks. He's not so much for the big corporations. He's very much for the people.
Right. Does he like Bitcoin?
You like Bitcoin? No.
Does he like any cryptocurrency?
You like any cryptocurrency? No.
Why not?
No. It's just so far removed from the banking system.
Okay. Does he believe in the private creation of capital?
Do you believe in the private creation of capital? Absolutely not. That was a good question.
Yeah, you know why? Because you know what that means. You know who doesn't believe in the private. Okay, let's ask another question. Let's ask a clarifier. Does he believe that the state should create capital?
Do you believe the state should create capital? No, the federal government.
Well, all right. Okay, but that's the state. Oh, right. Not a state. Okay, sorry. The government. Yes, sorry. My mistake. My bad. Okay, so he believes only the government should create capital, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
It's safer.
Right. You know who else believes in that?
Who?
Marxists and communists.
Oh. He's listen, you know what? He's very much for the people. He really is. He believes that American exceptionalism has been destroyed. He believes that our economy is on the brink. He believes that this whole idea of the American dream is done. Okay. He believes we've gone into a very controlled, economically controlled society.
Right, but if he doesn't believe in the private creation of capital and he believes in the state creation, government, state as in government creation of capital, those are one of the two planks of Marxism and communism. I mean,
are you a communist? No, he's not a communist. Are you a Marxist? Ooh.
Yes, he is, I bet.
A little bit. He gave me the answer of a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the difference between communism and Marxism? That's another video, I guess.
That's another video. It's interesting, actually, because Karl Marx, who a lot of people espouse to and quote, I mean, he was actually one of the elites and was basically paid to come up with the whole thing of Marxism. I mean, people don't realize that, but he was not a man of the people. He was an elitist. And he was paid by other elitists to come up with we have to call it a protocol, of Marxism and all that lot. And so, he didn't believe in it himself, just that, it's just for the other people,
We
should do a probe on this. Oh, yeah, this will.
Yeah. Why don't we channel Karl Marx? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
We'll gather some questions. That'll be a fun probe.
Looking forward to that one.
Oh, yeah. But this guy, I understand what he's saying. I do. But yeah. I just think that, look at his date of birth, 1939. He wants us to go back to the days when, one wage could buy a house.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's looking at. He's looking at those times. And he's just saying now everything is just out of control.
Yeah. Well, no, and I mean, I don't disagree with him, and I actually like him, and I'm not a Marxist, and I don't agree with that side of his what he agrees with. But he's got his hand on the pulse. He knows what he's talking about. I mean, and he's not wrong in most of what he says. So yes, and would I think he's more for the people than not? Yes, I would agree with that. But unfortunately, he doesn't have actually any answers about how to cure the system. It's all very well saying let the banks go bust. Fine, great, let's do that. Now what? We live in a fiat, a debt-based money creation system. Yeah. Money is backed by nothing. Our funds are backed by nothing. The dollar, the pound, the euro, they're backed by nothing. The full faith and credit of the government, they will tell you. But what does that mean? At the end of the day, these systems, by their very nature, have to inflate or die if they don't get bigger and bigger. Deflation is one of the worst things. We might like prices lower, but these guys don't. The Federal Reserve and most central banks have a stated policy of 2% inflation. They work out that if it's 2% inflation, which is the theft rate, I always call the inflation rate the theft rate. That is the value that they are stealing from you because you're getting 2% less buying power. All right. But the point is they want it to go up and up year on year and year on year. There is no amount of, there is in a fiat-based money system, no limit to the amount of currency that can be circulated. It can be into the quadrillion, billions, zillions. It doesn't matter as long as it keeps going up and up and up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, the value of every unit then goes down and down and down in buying power, but they're not worried about that. So, people, you have to look at a more Austrian economics sort of, Mises organization, that type of thing, the Austro-Hungarian approach to money to try and sort out this system, because this system will literally go bang one day, because one day they won't be able to pull it back. One day something will happen, and then he'll get his wish, and then we'll see what happens when the whole of the financial system collapses. I don't know. If it's hyperinflation, well, we can look at the Weimar model in Germany as to see what happened there, where you were carting around currency notes in barrows of, wheelbarrows to buy one loaf of bread, where the money has absolutely no value. Brilliant book, by the way, When Money Dies by Adam Ferguson, well worth reading. When Money Goes to Die, I think it was called. And that described the whole Weimar experience, I could go on and on. Anyway.
Well, and now you understand what he means when he says it's going to go bang, right? This is not sustainable.
No, but the problem is, like a lot of people who say that, they also don't have the answer. They can bring the problem, but they don't have the solution.
Yeah.
Okay. And, if we have a solution where we don't want, pitchforks and Mad Max, then, because nobody wants that. So if we don't have a solution that can solve the problem, I don't know. It's interesting. They solved the Weimar problem in the end by literally one day just taking about 13 zeros off the value of the mark. So, if it was 1 trillion, it was now 10 or something. I can't remember the exact numbers, but that's pretty much how they did it. Clever, actually. Yeah. But everybody has to understand. And I think this has come up in a probe before, and this would be a good thing for another probe, because I seem to remember that you probed out something in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, because you didn't see it having the value of, say, 1 million or 500,000 or 250 or whatever it was. It might have the buying power of that, but it would be priced about $2,000 or something. Do you remember doing that?
No.
Oh, well,
sorry.
You did.
I don't. That's how you know I'm genuine. Like, I don't remember what I tell people. Like, I just don't. Goes in. So in other
words, Bitcoin was, say, hypothetical, have no idea when, but say Bitcoin gets to $1 million in today pricing, and then there's a massive revaluation of the currency down so that it's, instead of 1 million, it's 1,000. Yeah. So it has the old buying price of $1 million, but it's only priced at 1,000. You know, that kind of thing. Now, the problem with that is that to do that, every single thing would have to have the same level of reduction. So you live in a million pound house? Well, no, you don't. It's £1,000 house. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
it would be nice if we could probe somebody that does have a solution.
Right.
You know, we'll find them eventually. We'll get there.
Right.
This is interesting. So, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's all we need for this one, I think. Thank you.
Okay, great. This was fun.